Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another program of Project Zainab Live with Ruhi Rizvi. And today we bring you a different kind of program. This one is looking at community work, humanitarianism, and how we can benefit our communities. Today with me, we have Brother Neil Nasser, who's no stranger to media at all. He's done fantastic work in the community. So just a small introduction. Brother Neil Nasser has been a social activist with the social and charity housing. He's also worked with, he's a very key member of Who is Hussein campaign. And I've known him for a very long time, I guess, through Elevate TV, but also through the charity work that he's done. But we've done familiar kind of work in the community. Brother Neil Nasser has been working continuously in this field.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry, so I got lost there. I think it was all technical going on today.
That's all right.
Someone doesn't want me here.
Gremlins, we call them gremlins.
Gremlins, the glitching is the works. Anyway, so before I introduce Neil Nasser to the program today, I just want to say that there's a lot of work happening in our communities, not only because of lockdown, it's been happening for a very long time. I know that Brother Neil Nasser has worked with the refugees as well. I know that there's work happening on the ground, not only with the Who is Hussein campaign. I also recognize and believe, and I've also known work to be happening with the homelessness that's happening, not just only in London, but across the UK. And one of the vibrant voices that we hear is of Brother Neil Nasser when it comes to the Arba'een, and he leads, the youngsters, the youth, and they're very, very kind of, very settled with Brother Neil Nasser, because I think you kind of represent a lot of the work that's happening out there on the ground, and a lot of the youth want to get involved. And I think for that, you kind of have that you have a huge amount of leadership skills. Not only that, I know that you're also running a mentoring and coaching program. Is it by the name of the NLM Solutions?
Yeah, Life Solutions.
Life Solutions. Mm-hmm. And so that's also happening on the ground with yourself. And hopefully, inshallah, in the next few minutes, you'll be able to, in the next minute or so, you'll be just taking everybody on a journey of how humanitarian is carried out, what kind of work that you've been doing, why is it essential for the community, how people get involved, and not to mention that if they do want to put in the funds today, where they go. So we have a live YouTube channel also running side by side with Zoom. People can watch this after the program. A lot of people have time differences across the globe. So, they cannot probably make it this night, or they have something going on, which is already another commitment. So we want you to describe what it's been like to play a massive role in your life, in your campaigns.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much, Project Zainab team, for inviting us on this platform today. I must say it's an absolute honor to be here and representing. And thank you for the very humbled introduction. I almost blushing on screen, so maybe it's the lighting is not showing the blushing. Thank you so much. Honestly, humanitarian work is something that I'm very passionate about. I always been very passionate about. It's something that I have grown up seeing my mother doing a lot of humanitarian work, a lot of work for charities, local people, and helping people. So it's kind of been installed in myself from a very young age. And because of the work that I've been doing for such a long time, working within the social housing sector and working for various charities, it's given me a full insight into what it's like to be oppressed, to face injustice, which we see many people in the UK and abroad facing. When you see statistically and you read statistically doing research where, there's over 1 billion people in the world that don't have access to clean water. In the UK alone, there's 280,000 plus people that live on the streets. That's phenomenal numbers right here. I'm in London right now. There's 8,000 people within a 12-mile radius that sleep rough every single night, and these numbers are rising and rising and rising. It's our duty to help and to support as fellow human beings. I feel that the population at large need to be more humane in being human, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We kind of start by looking at the definition of humanitarian. What is a humanitarian really? The dictionary definition is somebody that is concerned, um, a concerned person who seeks to promote human welfare. That's the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary definition, if you like. Someone that looks really at the entire human race, or the characteristics of uniquely being human beings, showing kindness, mercy, sympathy, treating somebody with kindness, as just an example. Someone that actively engages with promoting human welfare, social reforms, without prejudice, whether sex orientation, religious or national divides, color of skin. Generally we use this term race, and to be honest with you, to yourself and all the viewers, there is only one race. That's the human race, and we need to take down the barriers that are there. And when I read the definition of a humanitarian, there's only one person, really, that comes to mind. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the true humanitarian. The dialogue for civilizations in Islam alone really address humanitarianism. It's a prominent feature of the Islamic religion, and what Islamic revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who offers that sacrifice on the land of Karbala, and those supreme concepts, those universal values that we can draw from that. The revolution inspired the hearts of people, vulnerable people throughout history, and the slogans really to liberate, and the source of looking at the tyrants and overthrowing the arrogant people on the thrones and the regulations. The goals of the revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam exceeded sectarianism, and really addressed the wider humanitarian space, free of consequence to mankind, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stresses in our religion, deep in our faith, and in all the Abrahamic religions. If you take time to read the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran, it's always about love thy neighbor, being good to the human being, and helping each other. So this is where I draw these concepts from. This is where it all comes from. A bit of a long introduction, so apologies for that. I wanted to start with a definition, because when I read the definition and I hear the sacrifice of the Imam alayhi salam, the two entwine really. It's he is our example of that humanitarian that we can actually draw that from.
The selflessness comes directly from Imam Hussein, and that's something that it's very difficult to find across history. Yes, we've seen, we've been given on and off the examples of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, but to be actually giving your all, and that sacrifice speaks volumes. So when we're talking about Imam Hussein, and then you've got the work that you're doing, which is Who is Hussein campaign. What does that involve, and how do you actually, what is the kind of work that you're doing on the ground, and plus how can people get involved?
Sure. So Who is Hussein is a global charity. It's in over, I believe, about 50 countries around the world, in different cities, doing different work. The great thing I believe about Who is Hussein and their ethos is that we're told to go out there and help people within your local areas, and focus on the needs of that particular area. So if you're in Africa, generally you'd be looking at medicines, you'd be looking at helping those people. Maybe in the Middle East, you'd be looking after the orphans. Disaster that happened in America with Flint and the water that happened a few years ago, Who's Hussein were at the forefront of giving clean water. Our team right here in London focus generally on homelessness. Why do we do that? Because the numbers that I'm quoting, within 8,000 people within London are sleeping rough every night. And it's something that we're passionate, not just about feeding that homeless person on that cold Saturday night, which we've been doing, constantly for the last 6 years. We're also one by one trying to help, trying to invest in individuals to try to get them off the streets, back into work, back into housing, back into a sustainable way of life that we all take for granted. We all wake up, we all go to bed in a soft bed, we have a roof over our head, we can have running water, we have facilities that, you know, we can go to the bathroom very easily. But unfortunately, when you look just in your local areas right now, you will see homeless people, and the numbers are rising. In terms of the ethos of Who's Hussein, it's to give hope to people. Wherever you are in the world, hope is the main thing that people need to prosper. Because without that, you know, that's a lost human being.
Yeah.
That we have that ability within ourselves to kind of help somebody. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "Don't look down on anybody unless you're willing to pick them up." We learn from Ahlul Bayt, we learn from our prophets, we learn from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he says in Surah Nisa that you should look after your parents, you should look after the wayfarer, you should look after the orphan, but also you should look after your neighbor, the one close to you and the one far away from you. And when you ponder on ayat like this, when you ponder on words like this, you feel that, what does this mean? You know, everybody is connected in some way or another. We all have the same blood. We all have the same beating heart. We all have the right to the simple things in life, as I say, food, running water, and shelter.
Yeah.
And I think that more and more people are getting involved. More and more people in our communities are actually picking up the mantle and going out there and installing that humane dignity, becoming true humanitarians, either through Who's Hussein or through other organizations which are doing phenomenal work.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you came across some of the things that were happening, and it was during the first lockdown that we had, and then I came across a parking land where people park their cars,
Mm-hmm.
and to give homelessness social distance. Each parking space was given to a homeless person.
That's right.
What were your views on that?
This happened in I think it was in Las Vegas in LA,
Yeah.
where they did that. They were trying to stop the spread of the coronavirus, the COVID-19. That was the initiative. Unfortunately, in LA, it's not everything that's portrayed on our screens. The levels of homelessness, if you were to go to Venice Beach, California, it's not all kind of what you see on your screens, where it's all sunshine and palm trees. The levels of homelessness is unbelievable. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. They have a massive kind of homeless community that live in tents just offshore. So what the government did over there, what the LA government did over there, is try to ask people to segregate. And the way they did this was through that car park. It was a small act of humanity. They were getting fed, and they were getting clothed, and they were getting medication as well. And I believe helped to slow down the spread of the virus in that particular area. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. In the capacity of you working with Who is Hussein, what other messages are you giving out? Not, I mean, other than, you know, that there is humanity, it is alive as much as, you know, the eye can see, but is there, you know, what is the physical work that's involved?
So here in London, we created a food drive. That was our first and foremost thing that we did about 6 years ago. We went to a place in Charing Cross where generally a lot of distribution of welfare is given out on a daily basis by different charities. So we set up a small food drive with the banner of Who is Hussein, in the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We changed the ethos of calling them homeless to calling them guests. If you were to invite, anyone was to invite somebody for dinner,
Absolutely.
then they're your guest. So that in just within that one terminology changed the word from just homelessness to give them some sort of dignity.
Yes.
Throughout setting up that time, we weren't just focusing on distributing food like you would in a zoo, just giving out food. Our focus was, yes, give out food, give out hot drinks, but our main ethos and main focus was on the guest relations. It's a team that we formed within there, and also the PR team. The guest relations team would be the ones that would walk around and sit down and have conversations with our guests. if you're having a meal, you know, it's nice to have a conversation. It's nice to get to know somebody. Sitting down and spending a bit of time with somebody to get to know somebody, to build relationships and build rapport up is the most important thing, I
Yeah, it's a
feel.
little bit more than just giving out, just giving handouts, isn't it?
Yeah,
It does
definitely.
make the person feel a bit more um, wanted,
Yeah,
if that's
indeed.
the right word I could say,
No, you're right.
because a lot of people just think that, okay, it's just another day and it's another, you know, one sandwich and then here we go and another day to come. But
Yeah.
having a conversation with somebody is something that's really lacking in our communities. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of people, I mean, you don't have to be homeless even to know that, you know, depression is killing people,
Yeah.
isolation is killing people,
Yeah.
and a lot of people want to be able to kind of speak, you know. You don't
Hmm.
want to be forgetting how to speak because you've never been spoken to for a very long time. And I think lockdown has been, for a lot of people, a wake up call to say, you know, this for the normal, you know, human being who's, you know, going by their day, working and, you know, whatever, having spent time with families and whatever, can still feel the isolation. So
Hmm.
how must it be like for those who have to live it day in and day out, you know, as part of their mental health condition? Even the you know, that is not something that we do on a regular basis, is to talk to somebody who we feel that, you know, they could do with a little bit of a conversation.
Yeah, 100% I agree with you. And we've had a taste of it. Like you said, during these lockdowns, a lot of people are working from home. Some people live on their own. And, you know, there's days when you're not speaking to anybody. So we're getting a flavor of what it's like to some degree. You know, a lot of people will pass by. There's, you know, that reaching arm that's asking you for a bit of change. You might pop into a local store and buy a meal deal or give a little bit of change in your pocket. I often say, yes, give the money, give the food, but just spend 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if you can, just to stop and to speak to somebody. You never know that might be the only conversation that person has for a week or a month or even, you know,
Absolutely.
even longer. And this is what happens with their mental health. So their well-being is suffering because of that isolation. As I say, we got a taste of it ourselves. There's a lot of people reaching out to myself as a coach and a mentor, to other services such as therapy, because they are really feeling isolated right now. So can you imagine going a month or even longer without
Mm,
actually speaking to somebody, being looked down on? And also, you know, sister, that some of the stories that I hear from my friends, I call them my friends. These are the guests that we serve. I've built up so many relationships with people. Some of the stories are harrowing, of them getting beaten up in the middle of the night by people that are passing by. They want to take their frustrations out on them, or being waking up in the middle of the night being urinated on, or having their stuff stolen. These are human beings
yeah.
that have fallen on hard times. You know, what's the cause of homelessness? What's the cause of being out on the streets? It's not because they're drunks and not because they're drug addicts. This is a small proportion of it, a small percentage.
Mm,
Unfortunately, you know, a lot of people are facing this. People that have taken risks in their businesses. A lot of people have been made bankrupt. I often speak to people that, you know, were in relationships where the relationships broke down. They've lost everything. People that have gone bankrupt, lost their homes, lost their marriages. Next thing you know, you take that gamble and you're out on the street. You have nowhere, literally nowhere to go. Statistically, and this will
yeah.
surprise yourself and probably the viewers, most people are less than two payments, rent payments or mortgage payments, from being homeless yourself. Now,
Yeah.
so many people have lost their jobs during this year, this 2020 crazy year. So many people have faced furlough schemes that have, some people are not entitled to anything, and literally they're living hand to mouth. So poverty is massive and it's rising. People on 0 hour contracts, people that are trying to claim benefits, the changing in the welfare reform system, the introduction of universal credit has not made it easy for people to actually get support. And this is
Yeah.
a main problem.
In terms of the campaign that you and you're working, I mean, the campaign of Who is Hussein, um, you actually physically slept out, didn't you?
Yes, I do it quite regularly. So I know I'm a bit crazy.
No, I've done it on one occasion, and
Mashallah,
I was raising money for refugees in Greece.
mashallah.
But you know, the one thing from that experience was how I actually learned so much
Mm,
about everything that I have to everything other people don't,
okay, that's
if that
it's
makes any
phenomenal.
sense.
No, totally. Yeah.
Because that night I was under the sky and I could, you know, and it was chilly because it
Hmm.
was this, I think we've come to about my third, fourth, yeah, anniversary actually today
Wow.
when I actually did this. And this was in somewhere in London.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, it was a wake up call for me. It was a
Yeah.
big wake up call. I've only just literally 3 days before that stepped off of the plane from Greece, came
Wow.
back here to UK, and I thought, you know, I've got to do something.
Mm,
But what's the best way to kind of feel the anguish, the pain, the, you know, the isolation of these people and the
mm.
desperateness? You're not going to feel that unless you actually experience some of that yourself.
Yeah.
And some of us take it so much for granted, you know, the warm bed, like you said, and you know, having warm dinners and a heated home, you know, that's invaluable. And a lot of people never actually think that, you know, that these are nama from Allah
Yep.
subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we should actually recognize that there's, you know, there's so many people who don't have this.
Yep.
But it's a given right. It's a right for them. But we haven't actually supported them to have that right. And I think that's why it was essential for me to kind of do that, but actually raise the money for the refugees in Moria camp in Greece too. And
Mashallah.
I know that you've done a lot of that work, and a lot of people have gone out to Calais and also
Mm,
out to Greece in that time. Um, but you know, these are just some of the things that, you know, a lot of people can get themselves involved in. The problem on our streets of London still isn't ending.
mm.
You know, if anything, homelessness, like you said, has grown worse. People have lost their jobs over lockdown. And then you've got a lot of people that haven't shifted, even with anything that's happening in Europe. You know, there's still boats that are floating by with a lot of people, dead bodies in the Mediterranean Sea.
Hmm.
Um, and it makes you think that, you know, humanity is somewhere, but is it within us?
Yes.
And how can we actually, you know, bring that out and support people physically? How would you suggest that people, you know, literally wake up and recognize that, you know, they can make somebody's life a lot different, a happier person, a positive kind of change to their life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's you're so right in what and that taste of sleeping rough and being out there. We actually started the 72 for 72 campaign just on the back of the setting up the food drive to understand what it's like, and it's something that we do sleep 3 days and nights out on the streets just to kind of experience what it's like, but also to kind of understand how best we can help and serve humanity that are on the streets with, you know, there's over a third of people in the world that don't have a home. When you worldwide statistics, that's really something that resonates with me. For myself is statistics, so when I read statistics it really hits home. It hurts my heart, to be honest with you. So people sometimes think that they can't do anything, they can't help in that much. Their single act of kindness isn't going to go very far.
Mm.
Then we should know within ourselves that we may ourselves don't have the ability to change the world. We probably won't have the ability to end, you know, the crisis, the wars, the, you know, the homelessness in the world, but we have the ability within ourselves to change the world for one or two people. We should know
Which is a
that within
drop in
us.
the ocean,
It's a
right?
drop in the ocean. But have you heard the story about the starfish? When the guy is walking along a beach, he sees somebody in the distance, and there's hundreds and hundreds of starfish that have been washed up on the beach, like thousands of them. And he sees this one guy throwing these starfish off, and he walks up to him. He said, "What are you doing? What, you know, why are you doing this? You're never going to save them all." He said, "Yeah, but I
Mm.
can save at least a few." And that's the mentality that we should have. It's very easy for people to think there's nothing they can do on an individual basis, so therefore they lapse that empathy, and it stops them from doing these small actions. But the smallest action can make a difference: sponsoring a child, signing a petition, involved with a non-profit organization, just spending a few hours. How lucky are we to be blessed with all these minutes, these seconds of a day, and what do we do with it? With most people waste it on social media, flicking up, looking down, looking at people's posts, looking. That time is just wasted. It's gone. One day passes, the next day passes. There's so many ways that people can get involved. Look at what I would suggest is look at what you're good at as a person. So maybe you're good at IT, maybe you're good speaker, maybe you're a good cook, maybe you're somebody that has a network of people. You could get in so many different ways with these charities. It doesn't have to be at the forefront. It can be behind the scenes. The team that we have in London for Who Is a Saying, okay, I'm the face because I speak a lot and I don't mind being in front of camera, but there's a whole network of people behind me and others in the team that actually make it happen. From people that do all the fundraising behind, from the people that we have an accountant, we have somebody that does all the social media, we have somebody that does all the IT, someone that does all the social media posts. Don't ask me to do a social media post because I'm absolutely terrible. Even when I was promoting this show, I think I cut something off earlier on, and it's just,
I don't know, it just seems to it worked for me because I just pressed on a couple of hashtags, and yes, that works for me. So none of us have all the attributes that really help things to move forward and progress. So we all have small bits here and there, and then we make up a whole thing, which turns into a big campaign, and it turns into a big fundraiser. So everybody can do their little bit, and it's just having that main intention, and I think things kind of fall into place quite easy. And it's just ask one a group of people, how can I come and join, and is there anything I can help with, and I've got this. If you can't physically do things on the ground, maybe you don't have the time, your money will help, right? And if you don't have the money, then your time might help. And then if that's not possible, then perhaps, and you're one of the physical people that can go around doing all of that kind of stuff, or a social person, then highlight the issue where and when that's possible. Use social media, but, bring attention to these, these very, very underprivileged, deprived people who have, who may have one food today and not see one for the next week or so. I don't want to say this live, but there are people who I have been fortunate to meet. And, they would happily starve themselves just to get by and pay the electric for tomorrow.
Yes.
Because they recognize that, if I don't get the electric, I'm not going to get the heat. If I don't get the heat, that's going to cause me to die further. So it's best that I use that first and put so there's a lot of people that are prioritizing heat over food.
Yes, that's right.
And their physical health is suffering, and this is what we call the Western civilization, and we all go about our usual day thinking we've got all happy lives and we've got it all happening. If you want to go and see the nightlife and you want to see the happy life, it's London, and they don't see what's happening in those little subways, or there are people who are sleeping in bins.
Yes.
Yeah. Those big large bins that have a covered lid over the top, because that prevents them from getting rain on top of them in this cold weather. But they'd happily do that, sleep in a bit of trash, because that gives them at least some warmth as opposed to under the sky.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a situation that every one of us can help with. So this is why I asked you to be on the program today, because this is there's a lot of talk going on about support crisis, support shelter, support all of these different campaigns, and everybody can go out their way and do whatever. So is there any other campaign that you're also working with, or is it just Who Is Hussein? Or
no, alhamdulillah, I've been able to work with a number of charities, a number of organizations, Zahra Trust, Noor Orphans, I work locally with a charity called Lives Not Knives, because gang problems within the London area, when the UK is a massive issue. I've been able to do some work with Feltham young offenders as well. As a coach and a mentor and a motivational speaker, I've been able to reach out to the youth and try to change people's mindset. So that's some other work that I've been doing as well, in terms of, you know, humanitarian work, just trying to get to the grassroots, to change people's opinions, to try to help society at large. You know, the young people are our future, and if we're not investing in young people, then there's going to be problems. We have future leaders really that are living amongst us, and unfortunately they're getting sucked into this life of gang warfare and this crime, and trying to help them to avoid that and to stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim, just to try to keep them on that straight path, to help them. I want to go back to a point that you touched on there about poverty, in terms of people that are living in homes, people that are making choices whether they actually feed themselves and pay their electric bill. This is absolutely massive. I'm working in social housing for many years. I have these conversations with people on a daily basis, where people are having to make those harsh decisions, whether they feed their children, or whether they keep the heat on, whether they're able to pay the gas or the rent. More so now, like literally more so now with COVID, because there's so many people that are on 0-hour contracts, that are on below minimum wage, cash in hand work, trying to make ends meet, and they're unable to do it. We've had you know, a terrible year generally with what's been happening with this disease. And, you know, we understand the principles of why the governments have locked everybody down and tried their best to stop the spread of this virus. But the impact on people that are in low paid works, the hospitality sector that has been shut down, where you've got people that were waitresses working in hotels as cleaners, or making beds in hotels. And you think to yourself, these people were on the borderline as they were, and then maybe, you know, not just working one job or two jobs. Now they're literally hand to mouth. And we've heard calls, sister, where we've had people that are in 2 or 3 bedroom flats, or even 1 bedroom flats, where they're overoccupied. They have maybe 3 or 4 people, 5 people in a 1 bedroom flat, and they're restricted from going out. They're told they can work from home, but how do you work from home when you've got so many people running around? And just that mental well-being, that strain and stress on people is of the utmost right now. And we can do so much more for our community. You know, if you just take the time to knock on your neighbor's door, your neighbor and your neighbor's door. I think the Prophet, peace be upon him, says 40 neighbors to your left, to your right, and in front of you and below you, they are your neighbors. They're the ones that you should be looking out for and trying to help. Look out for the vulnerable, look out for the elderly. And also within it, we should be looking after the planet. We should be looking after all of God's creation. You know, it doesn't take much to actually put a bit of water out, or a few breadcrumbs for the birds, to look after the earth, stop destroying the earth, stop using plastics that's polluting
the environmental situation. It's
exactly.
pretty bad too. So
it is pretty bad. We don't realize what we're doing to the planet and how it's affecting other people in other countries. How that there is, I read on a website that there is a plastic island that's floating around in the sea that's the size of the continent of India and Turkey combined. So you imagine the size of that island that's just floating around on our earth and destroying our planet, honestly. So yeah, I mean, you know, there's so much more people can do to be humanitarian. The smallest acts really make a difference.
So we've spoken about a lot of the things that you've practically done in terms of helping guests in Charing Cross, but also about, you know, supporting other campaigns. But what about the support that the youth require? And I know you were talking about the knives crime issue, but what about the young people, the young brothers who are going through a lot of problems with their identity and those kind of crises and stuff? And because we live in such a fast pace of this world that we don't realize that, you know, time is moving so fast. but we get caught up in it, and we're starting to lose ourselves a little bit, wouldn't you say? And then so these young people who are in being brought up in the West, they all come back from different continents across the globe. But yeah, their biggest issue is trying to either fit in, or they feel themselves like a jigsaw piece that's just floating around. It doesn't know where to fit.
Yeah.
So do you have those kind of issues coming to yourself too?
Yeah, definitely. We see it all the time. Really, the young people are not being invested in. Refugees that are coming over, just people from our own communities, really, that they lack this focus and this drive, determination for betterment, for bettering themselves. They have a very negative mindset about about our religion, and B, about what they can achieve in life. We don't invest in our communities enough in our youth. There definitely needs to be more work done and more concentration in that area, where people need to reach out and have mental. When I'm mentoring people, the majority of people I'm mentoring are young people. We're going into madrasas, we're going into schools, and we're teaching people how to set life goals, how to actually invest in themselves further and increase their productivity for the eventual goal that they want to get to, and how that. Unfortunately, the education system is not set up in a way that it's to invest in a particular person or to teach people or young people how to grow.
Yeah.
The education system is set up for people to pass an exam at the end of their school education, right? It's not there to invest in get the best out of themselves. Who knows, at the age of, what is it, 14 or something, when you choose your options, and when you what GCSEs you're gonna, who knows what career you wanted to do. Believe you me, when I sat a few years ago, I don't want to give my age away, but when a few years ago sat with my careers advisor and filled out a paper form, I'll give my age away now, and I was no computers back then. So the careers advisor said, "Oh, Mr. Nasser, I think you'll be a very good fireman." I was a bit confused. Obviously didn't end up working as a fireman. The whole system is set up to kind of put people into boxes.
I was going to say that it's kind of molding you into specific places.
Exactly.
But with the experience of working as a public health nursing specialist practitioner, I worked in several amount of schools, and I came across young people, and I had the responsibility of speaking to them. I came across a lot of the police records and things, which worried me to an extent, because I can't turn around and say that, oh my gosh, it's just it's not. It's the people who live in the UK or who live in the West that are actually, who are British white, and I could not put them in the box. It was horrific for me that when I was working in Northwest London, a lot of them were from, be it the Iraqi community or the Pakistani community or the Bengali community or the Iranian community, Moroccan, Algerian, you name it. And it was very, very worrying to a very high degree, that a lot of parents don't spend time with their children as they're growing up. And for teenagers, it's very problematic, because not only have they got the hormonal changes within them that's making them, make those decisions. People just think that, he's growing up, so he's just, some kind of lunatic. Who has no idea where he's going. But a lot of it is to do with the hormonal balances and imbalances. And these young people are growing up to be, men and women of our future. And they are our future generation. But the biggest thing I came across was that because we've got family backgrounds that don't meet the culture in the West, they don't know how. Parents have come across, there's a lot of parents that have actually said, I don't know how to help my children. Those that have admitted would say that. Those with high egos would say there's a problem with the child.
Yes.
So have you come across any of those children?
Yeah, we do. We come across them quite a lot. They lack the self-belief, the motivation to kind of like the example that you gave, where you've got people that are coming over from different countries, and the parents alone are trying to survive. They're trying to, find their feet in this country, and they don't know how to help. They don't know how to help the person. They don't know how to help the young individual, their son, their daughter, to get to find their way. They're just left to one side. So they're in school, they'll be fine, they're getting an education, and then they're forgotten about. They grow, and like you said, these people are our future. They are our future, and we need to invest more in them. When I don't want to give you too many examples of people that I've come across, but as I'm going to give you an overarching example. The majority young people that I interact with, either where they have committed crime, i.e. stab somebody and they're in prison, young offenders, or people that are in gangs, or victims of crime, or even just young people within our own communities. And I want to stress our own communities. This is people that attend majalis, dua kamel programs, listen to lectures, read Quran, right? They lack belief in themselves. They've not had the investment in themselves to better themselves. They don't have positive role models in their lives, whether it's at home or around them. This is why the word on the street, fam, everything's fam, this. Fam, because what? Family, right? They're looking for family. They're looking for that role model. This is why they're sucked into gangs, because the gang leaders, who were slightly older than them, only 10 years or so older than them, realize this, and they're able to offer them a way out by offering some small money, but also that somebody to look up to. Where we change that whole narrative, we go in as adults and we go in there to help young people, to start giving them some focus, knowing that they can start growing within themselves, and they can start believing in themselves. Once they have that sense of belief that they can achieve and set those goals and those boundaries for their future, they're able to achieve more by having that sight and that vision and forward thinking.
Yeah, we said years back, we had this discussion, I think it was with Dr. Rebecca, where we established that, there is this thing that if parents are good friends to their young children, they'll find that the child is more likely to find themselves belonging to the home, as opposed to a friend that he belongs to who can, cause him harm outside his own home. So that, I've noticed that during the time I've been growing up in this in UK, that there are young people that are looking to belong. You put it pretty nicely that they don't have that self-confidence, but a lot of it is to do with self-love. How can you be taught self-love if they can't see love around them?
That's right.
So there is a lot of things that are happening in our households. There's a lot of domestic abuse going on, and children are torn between parents, and there are these continuous vibes that are around that give that kind of negativity to that child, and there's nothing better, like anyone that wants to just close the door to something that's kind of violence and move away from it, that these young people are actually leaving home at a certain a certain time in their age where they are most vulnerable to our society. There are people who would take advantage of them. And even in the work that I did in schools, there was a lot of young people that were being taken advantage of because they couldn't find anybody to communicate in their own home the certain issues that are going on with themselves. So anybody who kind of gave them that rope, they were willing to hold on to it, but not actually with any members of their family.
Sister, that we need to realize and recognize as adults and parents of the future generations that what stays with us as and forms us as human beings happens from the 3rd trimester of pregnancy up to the age of 7. So what you see and what you experience in the very nurturing early years of your life will formulate the person that you are going to be, and you carry these characteristics through your whole life. That's why in work that we do, work that therapists do, they'd always go back to those early days. Why did they go back to early days? To kind of unpick what was going on. You know, if you plant a tree, if you plant, you nurture that tree up to a certain age, a certain time when it's grown. And then once it's at a certain height, khalas, if it blows in the wind, it will blow and it will blow back. But the roots of that tree are firmly planted in the ground and solid. We need to recognize that as human beings, as adults, as parents, that we have a massive duty to young people, especially in the very early years. And we need to recognize that more. We need to understand the cycles of life. That cycles of life happen in 7-year periods. We know the teenage years, when they get to about 14 through till early 20s, they're more influenced by the people on the outside than they are influenced by who is in the home. So setting those early foundations within the first 7 years, and then the second 7 years as well, by making sure that they have a good friend circle around them, that they have good morals and good principles. This can help them so much in the future.
That's true. We're coming into the last few minutes of our program, but if somebody wanted to donate to the campaigns that you work with, you can say it live here on the program. And obviously we've got a recording going on, so you know, a vast amount of our members will be actually observing that maybe tomorrow or day after, whatever, but it will be there on recording, that if they wanted to support a campaign that you work with, or others that they wanted to, you know, how would they go about it?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So yes, we're always in desperate need of money and support. So please, if you can, go to whoishussein.org. If you can give money, that would be fantastic. Make a small donation. A regular donation will be even better if you can do that. Maybe a small amount that you can pay more regularly into the accounts will be phenomenal. It helps us to continuous work and set projects and put out forecast plans of what we can do and what we can achieve. If you go to that website as well, that's a global website. So whoever's watching right now,
wherever they are, in whichever part of the world they are,
yes,
there is
definitely.
a Who Is Hussein close by in which they can actually take part.
Definitely.
Also, before we go, if there is a person who's in general need of help, be it young or old, and you know there is some kind of support that you would be able to you know, give out to them, how do they get in touch?
Okay, so again, if you want to volunteer, you can go to the same website and fill out a form and give your time. That would be phenomenal. I encourage everybody in the UK that's watching this right now and has a smartphone or has access to a smartphone to download the Street Link app. The reason why I ask you to download the Street Link app or go to their website and take their phone number, because if you see somebody on the street that you are concerned with, please call them. They are funded by St. Mungo's and they work with a lot of different charities, authorities and organizations, and they will literally get somebody out to that person to see them within hours. Within hours, they will look for that person and they will be able to help them and support them, possibly get them into a shelter or some sort of support network where they can be rehabilitated. But you yourself, as a human being, money's great and we love money. Of course, it helps us to fund, but your time is more precious. If you can give time and you can donate, please go to the website whoishussein.org. If you want to help out in any of the other charities that I have mentioned, Zahra Trust, the Noor Orphans, or maybe a local charity that you have in your area, just remember the 4 humanitarian principles of life: humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. You have within yourself the power to make a change to 1 or 2 people's life, and your time is very precious.
Thank you so much. But you're also with your NMN Life Solutions, yes. Obviously you're also working with young people and you're mentoring and you're coaching, and it's fantastic that, you know, I have no idea where you get all this time from, but obviously there's dedication and with that, with the intention that you have for not just young people but older members of our community. You know, you're going, you know, you're spreading yourself so much, doing all the good things, and you seem to be such a good role model for so many people. Well, I wish you all the best, inshallah. I hope this program actually raises a lot of the awareness that we've discussed throughout, and that we must recognize that, the sunnah of the Prophet was to, work with the underprivileged, the deprived people of our community. And it doesn't have to be young, it doesn't have to be old, but it is somebody who really, really does need our support. So, we have all means of helping out, even if it just be, just putting our, shaking our hands with somebody who's a needy person, somebody who might be financially needy, somebody who just needs us to communicate with them, hold a small conversation with them. That could be something that might really benefit them, or impact them in a positive way. But there's a lot of things that we've discussed through this program, and that we could always, we all have some form or means that we can help somebody with. But I want to say thank you very much, Brother Neil Nasser, for bringing those home to us. And it is a wake-up call, literally, for all of us. And I would say to anybody who's watching that, don't feel that you can't help anyone, in our communities, because there's always something that you can possibly do. Yes, money does go a long way, like Brother Neil Nasser has said. And it is sometimes, your practical support that can go even longer. So thank you very much again, Brother Neil Nasser, for coming on the program today. And hopefully, inshallah, we can put out a whole new team with you again to give you that support that you're doing in the community. For tomorrow, just for the members and our viewers, that we've got Sheikh Hamza coming back on program tomorrow to discuss the second part of family akhlaq in the Quran, which is pretty necessary, because a lot of people will turn around and say that, but where does it say that in the Quran? But where does it say for the man in the Quran? Or where does it say for the woman in the Quran? But it talks about, a vast amount of things that we do in our daily life, and it is the daily, it is life, it is Islamic way of life, which is in the Quran. It's portrayed by the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then shown to us by the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Do join us tomorrow. The program with Sheikh Hamza is at 10 o'clock. And for today, the program is ending. Thank you very much for all those that have joined in. And if you're watching on YouTube as a recording, please give some time, your money, your help, your support to the causes that have been mentioned. And if anybody who feels that they would like some support, come back to us at Project Zainab and we will put you in touch. Thank you for watching Project Zainab Live.